It's our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. And like we always say, if you're riding along or not able to listen in your car, just go download our free app. You can get it on Android or iPhone. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDIV 98.7 FM. And we're going to bring in ESPN Recruiting Nation analyst, Gerry Hamilton. Gerry, welcome to the Hill, my man.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's always good to be able to talk a little football, recruiting in particular, but let's get real deep into this. Yesterday, it had been talked about for so many years, and it's finally official, GH. The NCAA has passed the early signing period, starting for seniors here in the 2018 class. How do you think that's going to affect college football going forward?
I think it remains to be seen. I think this first group of kids, this 2018 class, is going to be very interesting to see how they approach it. Meaning, how many of these kids are actually going to sign early? If you're an early enrollee and your decision's made, you're going to sign, no question about it, because the early signing period runs December 20th through 22nd alongside the junior college signing period. But what'll be interesting to me is, there's going to be kids committed to Power 5 programs or Group of 5 programs that some of your blue bloods or your top 10 programs are still trying to keep on the hook, right? So they could flip them late if they miss out on a guy or two. Do the blue blood programs come in and try to get those kids not to sign early? I think that's going to be an interesting aspect of this, is how much recruiting not to sign is there by some schools. I think there's going to be a lot. And I'll say another thing. If you're one of the elite players in the country, people always have to remember this. You don't have to sign. You can just enroll in June or whenever you get to school and sign the scholarship papers. You do not have to sign a letter of intent. A couple of guys have done that. Roquan Smith a couple of years ago committed to Georgia, then didn't sign and waited to just go to Georgia and sign scholarship papers, make sure of his decision. So the question is, will you see more kids maybe take advantage of that down the line if there's more pressure to sign? I'm not saying that because that's a very elite group of kids. But to me, the interesting thing, what percentage of kids sign and how much recruiting by schools to not sign early is there going to be on certain prospects?
From the early response, I know you talk to a bevy of kids day in and day out. What's the response you're getting not only from the 18 class, but also in the 19s and 20s? Is this something that you think is going to start having a real groundswell with kids, taking early official visits and kind of getting their recruiting process out of the way, or, it's just too early to tell?
Well, you hit on the part that I really like about the change. I'm not in favor of I'll get to your question in a second. I'm not in favor of the December to 22nd early signing period. I think it should have been in August, okay? I think it should have been like basketball, a real early period and then a late period, and which is your February period. So in August and then a February, to really give those kids who are done with the process the ability to sign early. And that made sense to me because spring official visits, to me, it doesn't make any sense to have spring official visits for these kids and then them not be able to sign for months. To me, how does that make sense? If you're really going to change this thing, let's change it. And I know a lot of people say, well, you have to change the recruiting calendar or whatever. Well, they already cut down on the evaluation days. It's now 10. With the satellite camp, they cut that down to 10 days. So I would have liked to see an August period if you're going to do spring official visits. Right. Of course, that's a different conversation. But the spring official visits are huge for the recruiting process because those as early as these kids are getting recruited, the kid and the family, instead of that kid getting on a bus and taking all these unofficial trips around the country without their family, now they can pick and choose and go on an official visit with their family, paid by NCAA, and that's the biggest thing for me to come out of this. I just don't agree with when the date is. As far as the kids, I think people are still trying to process this. Really, especially the families. The 19 kids, not much comment on it yet. I think you'll see some of that in the coming days. But for the 18 kids, man, it hits home immediately because how do you start the plan? Does it change the way you plan? Does it change the way you go about the recruiting process? and the decision-making process. Again, I think it's kind of a wait and see this first year. I remember when, kids started opting not to sign in the early basketball signing period, waiting till later. More kids did that because of the one-and-done rule, and just how that affected recruiting. I think we're going to have to see this first year what the kids opt to do, and maybe more important than the kids, what the families opt to do, because you have coaching changes and you have everything that comes with that. So what percentage of kids are going to sign December 20th through 22nd? I have a feeling this first year it may be a little lower than we anticipate.
Talking with Gerry Hamilton of ESPN Recruiting Nation Analyst. Gerry, you're a member of the Under Armour All-American game, and I want to talk about three individuals that will possibly have a chance, Arkansas recruiting. I know one has already committed, Hanspard, cornerback out of DeSoto, Texas. Elaborate on him, and then the other two I want to ask about, Luke Ford out of Cartersville, Illinois, and also Bumper Pool out of Lucas, Texas. Give me a little bit on each one of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Ford and Connor Nolan, I've seen all four of the Arkansas commit in person. He's a handful. We have him ranked in the top 100 players in the ESPN Under Armour All-American game. I feel like he's one of the more underrated players in the country, or not publicized players in the country. Now, he's not big on social media and the recruiting part of it, so his commitment shocked some people. Not that he went to Arkansas, just the timing of it, because he's not one of those kids that's out there a lot. But he is a really talented player that can really flip those hips and can run. He can play receiver. He can play corner. He can play on either side of the ball. He could fit at corner with Arkansas. He's a physical player. He will strike you. Of course, college football fans know how talented his father was as a running back coming out at Texas Tech and coming out of Texas Tech. But I just feel like he is a kid. I like when I talked season when I went to visit DeSoto High School. I really like just how football smart he is. Just in a 5-minute conversation, he was out of practice injured, but so we just kind of talked about football and talked about his transition to corner and how versatile he is, and you could just tell he kind of gets it. He has a mind for the game of football, right. And when you have that mind and you're physical and you run for
do each and every week.
Well, it's Hamilton, ESPN, Recruiting Nation is a show that comes on during the high school season. Will kick in again about September, and that runs through March. So we're on a break right now. We get going again about the time the high school games start. So we'll be back in a few months. We get out right now. We're in our evaluation mode, going out to practice, spring practices. We just updated our ESPN 300, working on the junior 300 for the 2019 class. We have Deion Sanders camp in Dallas, July 14th, camp in Bradenton, Florida, June 19th. So we're big in the evaluation process right now.